So, there's this up-and-coming rapper by the name of Hopskin. I think it's Hopskin. Let me make sure because I don't want to. Yeah, Hopskin. And the rap critic from that guy with the glasses. I know I don't like to try to promote the channel that much, although with the. Anyways, link will be down to his breakdown of this part of this video because this was his #1 video. I agree. Hopskin has absolutely wonderful flow. He's got great stuff. Most of his lyrics are great until you get to what is one thing that a lot of people are talking about, which is a little song by the name of Ill Mind of Hopskin 5. Now, I'm going to link you down to the song because I want people to hear it for themselves, but I'm also going to link you down to what's called The Best of Hard Knock TV. Hopskin Talks Ill Mind of Hopskin 5, God and Eminem. And that's when it starts to hit me. Now, what is it I object to? Well, there's a part of that song where he starts going after women. Now, normally I wouldn't be as weirded out by it, but it's how he goes about it. And it's the very sex negative way in which he goes about it. That's why I've included his interview, because you realize he's all about morality that comes from God, or a bit of a morality that comes from God. He has a religiously tinted ideal about women, sexuality, and what's going on. And that's why I feel this video is necessary, because unfortunately he has some points, and I will address when he has those points. But outside of that, at the end of the day, the rest of what he's saying is absolutely sex negative and is damaging as far as a social message. Now, is it getting people talking though? Yes, and that's why I included the Rap Critics video, slight deconstruction, although I think Rap Critic might not be aware of sex negativity. He may not be aware of the impact it has. And so I'm not going to chalk anything up to the Rap Critic because he really doesn't seem to know where to go with this discussion, unfortunately, because that's not part of his research. And I respect him for that, because otherwise he gets eaten alive by some of the Rap Critic's female fans. But let me read the lyrics, let me do a little deconstruction, let me talk about why I dislike this. So after he gets through talking about the swag kids and everything else, which again I think is good social commentary, he gets to this point. Girls, stop acting like you want a guy with traits like Romeo. Bitch, that's a fucking lie. Yes and no. See, this kind of idealism is what's fed into what was at one point, though I've heard it might have been disbanded, or at least some of the members have seen the light, of the true forced loneliness ideals, where people take this idea of nice guys finish last way too far. Now, are women in certain groups, in certain cliques, in certain places, choosing truly abhorrent men while constantly saying, oh, I wish I could find a nice guy? Yes. And those kind of people really piss me off, because sometimes those are the kinds of people who can't see the good guys in their life if they had two hands and a map. And that is worth having a dialogue about. Because, again, to some degree, this goes into this whole bitch mentality kind of thing, which is something that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video here. But the way it's presented is like girls in general are doing this, and I disagree with that. I've seen enough women who can pick some very nice guys who do see the good guys from the a-holes who just want to play around, as much as I see women who do constantly go for the bad guy and then talk about how they were burned and how much sympathy for them I don't have. Sorry, I'm not going to act as if I think it's okay, not because of my own experiences, but just because it's like banging your head on the wall and expecting different experiences each time. It's stupid. And granted, I've been stupid, so it's not entirely as if I can talk. I picked a woman and lived with her for 5 years, who beat the crap out of me. And who would have, unfortunately, in her slightly older age, would have abused our child, and I couldn't stand for that. So partly because of my child, I got out of that situation, and thankfully I did, because then I did work on myself, and then I chose better people. And there's a broader dialogue about the importance of parenting, which I think is partly talked about in these verses as well. But again, he's starting off slightly correct. He has a bit of a point here, but he's not quite going about it the right way, which is how a lot of sex negatives tend to be at times. They might have the right ideals, but they're going about it the wrong way, in ways that hurt women, in ways that make us as guys look bad. And that's not right. You always talk about how every man's fake and you can't take it and you want something real. Shut up, tramp. Save it. Well, I wouldn't say the shut up, but if at times I can't say that I don't get that way. I'm polite about it. I'm genuine about it, but unless I know the person well enough where I feel like I can talk to them in that manner, well, I wouldn't use the word tramp, but you know what I mean. I'm not gonna sit there and berate them, but I'm gonna say, well, maybe it's you. You know, that's not to excuse guys who are playas just for the hell of it. It's not to excuse guys who are just absolutely abhorrent, and who tend to be the ones who tick most of the boxes for these women. Oh, he's got a full head of hair, check. He's got muscles, check. He's got a symmetrical face, check. You know, never. And then that last box, the important one of, oh, is he actually a good guy? Is he a badass teddy bear? Because that's a term that's starting to be coined that I think fits, that people ignore. Women want somebody in some cases, not all, because I think that's unfair to make it seem as if women secretly feel like they're powerless. I don't subscribe to that. That's part of the disingenuousness I feel about some of the radical feminist movement. But it's this idea that they want somebody who they feel like can protect them. And yet at the same time, they want somebody who can be a bit in touch with their feelings, or at least can be a teddy bear, be cuddly when they're at home. Now, oftentimes they get the badass, but they don't get the teddy bear. And they keep trying and trying because they want that, not realizing that it's the Madonna whore complex. It can exist, but it's a frickin' unicorn, you know, in a sea of horses, only the unicorn's not sitting there proudly displaying its horn, so you can't really find it that easily. And then they stumble through life, and where do some of these badasses come from? They come from bad parenting. There's roots to a lot of these problems that people don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want to be culpable. You know what? If my son grows up to be terrible, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, it's that MTV, it's those video games, it's that movie I let him watch. I'm going to say, well, crap, I screwed up. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the person who's going to usually give him the tools to be a man is going to be me. And in my case, I'm not sitting here trying to be like, I'm not sitting here trying to overly discipline my son, leave him wondering, oh, does daddy even love me? And have him wreck his life over feelings that he's never good enough in my eyes, while me not realizing that I'm destroying him slowly. Though society would prefer I did. They want me to man my son up. Not that he's particularly girly or effeminate, but he's not exactly what some would call a man's man. And you know what? I don't care. If he's not that, I'm not going to beat him until he becomes that. But again, it's not entirely women's fault, but there are some women who are just serial daters of people who are absolutely terrible. And then there comes a point where you got to ask, is it me? I had to ask that. And when I did, and I found out, you know what? It was a lot of my fault that I chose the terrible woman I did. I fixed it. And now I've got a woman who is absolutely worthy to be called my wife, to be called mother to my son, and so on and so forth. I've got a woman who is better than my wildest fantasies and dreams. But that came with realization. It came with doing work. It came with stepping away from some of the mistakes that my parents made. But did I make mistakes that were somewhat rooted in parenting? Absolutely. So I'm going to continue this because, again, I want to deconstruct this. I think this is important.